the less the mind understands and the more things it perceives, the greater its power of feigning is, and the more things it understands, the more that power is diminished. Will and intellect are one and the same thing. Reason is no match for passion. Rarely do people live by the guidance of reason. Instead, we are generally disposed to envy and mutual dislike. The real slave lives under the sway of pleasure and can neither see nor do what is for their own good. Vice will exist so long as people exist. Reason alone has asserted its claim to the realm of truth. The prideful love the company of parasites or flatterers, and hate the company of those of noble spirit. Truth more than anything else has the power to effect a close union between different sentiments and dispositions. I am at a loss to understand the reasoning whereby it is considered that chance and necessity are not contraries. Knowledge of evil is inadequate knowledge. Don't cry and don't rage. Understand. The endeavor to understand is the first and only basis of virtue. The investigation of nature in general is the basis of philosophy. In demonstrating the truths of nature, does not truth reveal its own self? Reflection on the deceptiveness of the senses induces doubt. Reason is in reality the light of the mind, without which the mind sees nothing but dreams and fantasies. Superstition is founded on ignorance. Truth becomes a casualty when in trials attention is paid not to justice or truth but to the extent of a person's wealth. Everywhere truth becomes a casualty through hostility or servility when despotic power is in the hands of one or few. Freedom is of the first importance in fostering the sciences and the arts. We affirm and deny many things because the nature of words, not the nature of things, makes us to do so. Healthy people take pleasure in food and thus enjoy a better life than those who eat to merely avoid death. The more you struggle to live, the less you live. Give up the notion that you must be sure of what you are doing. Instead, surrender to what is real within you, for that alone is sure. You are above everything distressing. When a man is prey to his emotions, he is not his own master. A thing does not cease to be true because it is not accepted by many. Everything excellent is as difficult as it is rare. Emotional distress and unhappiness have their origin mostly in excessive love toward a thing subject to considerable instability. I have made a ceaseless effort not to ridicule, not to bewail, not to scorn human actions, but to understand them. If we could live by reason as much as we are led by blind desire, always be led by reason and would order their lives wisely. What Paul says about Peter tells us more about Paul than about Peter. Evil is that which hinders a person's capacity to perfect reason and to enjoy a rational life. If someone loves, desires, or hates something as we do, that very fact will cause us to love, desire, or hate it more. The more clearly you understand yourself and your emotions, the more you become a lover of what is. Pride is pleasure arising from a man's thinking too highly of himself. Rarely do people live by the guidance of reason. Instead, we are generally disposed to envy and mutual dislike. People are quite incapable of distracting their minds from thinking of any other goods besides riches, honor, and sensual pleasure. The wise are richest by nobly despising riches instead of greedily pursuing them. He alone is free who lives with free consent under the entire guidance of reason. People possess nothing more excellent than understanding, and can suffer no greater punishment than their folly. Be not astonished at new ideas, for it is well known to you that a thing does not therefore cease to be true because it is not accepted by many. Insofar as the mind sees things in their eternal aspect, it participates in eternity. Happiness is not the reward of virtue, but as virtue itself, nor do we delight in happiness because we restrain from our lusts, but on the contrary, because we delight in it, therefore we are able to restrain them. Desire that arises from reason cannot be excessive. People under the guidance of reason seek nothing for themselves that they would not desire for the rest of humanity. Things which are accidentally the causes either of hope or fear are called good or evil omens. Emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear and precise picture of it. Self-preservation is the primary and only foundation of virtue. The better part of us is in harmony with the order of the whole of nature. Conduct that brings about harmony is that which is related to justice, equity, and honorable dealing. Ignorance of true causes makes for total confusion. Hatred is increased by being reciprocated, and can on the other hand be destroyed by love. Hatred which is completely vanquished by love, passes into love, and love is thereupon greater than if hatred had not preceded it. Minds are conquered not by arms, but by love and nobility. Devotion is love toward one at whom we wonder. Love is nothing but joy with the accompanying idea of an external cause. Ethics, Part 3, Proposition 13, Scholium. Marriage agrees with reason if its cause is not merely physical beauty but especially freedom of the spirit. People's hearts are conquered not by arms but by love and nobility. Most people parade their own ideas as God's word, mainly to compel others to think like them under religious pretexts. Insofar as the mind sees things in their eternal aspect, it participates in eternity. All happiness or unhappiness solely depends upon the quality of the object to which we are attached by love. Hatred is increased by being reciprocated, and can on the other hand be destroyed by love. We feel and experience ourselves to be eternal. Outside nature, which is infinite, there is, and can be, no being. A miracle either contrary to nature or above nature is mere absurdity. Nothing exists from whose nature and effect does not follow. The mind of God is all the mentality that is scattered over space and time, the diffused consciousness that animates the world. In practical life we are compelled to follow what is most probable, in speculative thought we are compelled to follow truth. God does not exist for an end, and so God does not act for an end. In the universe there is only one substance. When all decisions are made by a few people who have only themselves to please, freedom and the common good are lost. Those who cannot manage themselves and their private affairs will far less be capable of caring for the public interest. Those who take an oath by law will avoid perjury more if they swear by the welfare and freedom of the state instead of by God. States must necessarily be created so that all people, both rulers and ruled, willing and unwilling, will act for the common welfare. An entire people will never transfer its rights to a few people or to one person if they can reach agreement among themselves. In isolation no one has the strength to defend themselves and acquire the necessities of life. Only free people are truly grateful to one another. The eternal part of the mind is the intellect, through which alone we are said to be active. Men are mistaken in thinking themselves free. Their opinion is made up of consciousness of their own actions, and ignorance of the causes by which they are determined. A society will be more secure, stable and less exposed to fortune, which is founded and governed mainly by people of wisdom and vigilance. The free person never acts with deceit, but always with good faith. The basic purpose of democracy is to keep people rational, as far as possible. in order to live in peace and harmony. Everyone should be allowed freedom of judgment and the right to interpret the basic tenets of their faith as they think fit. Men are mistaken in thinking themselves free. Their opinion is made up of consciousness of their own actions, and ignorance of the causes by which they are determined. It is far better for the honest policies of a state to be open to enemies than for the guilty secrets of tyrants hidden from citizens. No matter how thin you slice it, there will always be two sides. Apply yourself with real energy to serious work. If you want the present to be different from the past, study the past. There is no hope unmingled with fear, and no fear unmingled with hope. Peace is not the absence of war, it is a virtue, a state of mind, a disposition of benevolence, confidence, justice. The highest activity a human being can attain is learning for understanding, because to understand is to be free. We affirm and deny many things because the nature of words, not the nature of things, makes us to do so. I call him free who is led solely by reason. Only in relation to our imagination can things be called beautiful or ugly, well-ordered or confused. Nature offers nothing that can be called this man's rather than another's, but under nature everything belongs to all.